Would you like to make a living doing what you love? Would you like to have more fun doing whatever it is you do, making a living? Would you like it to be easier or more abundant doing what you do in the world? And would you like to take your next step in whatever that self-expression is, in however you're sharing your unique talents and gifts with the world? I'd like to share 5 key elements, 5 key aspects of how we can follow our heart and allow ourselves to be supported by the universe, being who we are in the world. The first key that I've noticed in my life is that it's not our job to find our job. It's not your job to find your job, how you make a living, or even what form you express who you are in. That's not our job. For 3 years of my life, the teacher from India, Sai Baba, showed up for 3 years in a row, almost every day, because it took me 3 years to get this message, and I'm still getting the message. But he kept showing up, and every day the main thing he had to say was, he would say, "Keith, you are the dreamer. God is the doer. You are the dreamer. God is the doer. Your job is to dream your dream and let the universe or spirit or God bring your dream to you. Do all the legwork. Create the form, the how, when, and where of your dream. Your job is to dream your dream, feel it, imagine it, enjoy it, project it, vibrate with the joy of living who you are. That's our job. And then the universe, by the law of attraction, the universe will bring us the people, the resources, the opportunities that will allow that dream to unfold in the physical world, in the real world. It took me quite a while. It took me quite a while to get that message. So the first key is to focus on who you are, how you would like to live, the qualities you would like in your life, not only in the way you make a living, but just in the way you'd like every moment of your life to be. What are the qualities that you enjoy in life? Play, exploration, discovery, security, flexibility, reliance, dependability. Be honest. It's very helpful to be honest about what, at this point in your life, what do you need? What helps you to feel comfortable, to feel relaxed? What helps you to create the space in which you can unfold and blossom and be yourself? And ask for those qualities. And then the universe will arrange when and where and how it can create a vehicle, a form through which you can express yourself and through which you can experience those qualities in your life. Number 2. The second thing I found that was very helpful is to go to your heart, your intuition, to source for inspiration, for guidance. In other words, I would resist the temptation to brainstorm on what's my next step, what should I do next, how can I get more business, what can I do, what is a job that would be really fun for me. I suggest you might replace brainstorming with what I call heartstorming. In other words, going to your heart for answers, for suggestions, for guidance, as opposed to going to the brain. Even though you say, oh, I know what brainstorming is, I use it this way. If we use that word, brain, it tends to still take us back into the old programming of using our head, using our mind, and thinking that we need to figure it out, and thinking that we can figure it out. So instead, allowing yourself to drop into your heart. A great phrase that I use all the time is, if I knew. So if I knew the next step for me to take in my professional life, to find a career or a way of making a living that would be a lot more enjoyable if I knew. Because that phrase shifts us, takes our attention into our knowing. If I knew, in my knowing. The knowing, to me, knowing is the heart, source, the true self. So if I knew how to open to guidance, if I knew what steps to take, if I knew how to recognize the signs and synchronicities that the universe is giving me, how would I do it? And these are all open-ended questions that you're posing to your higher self, to the universe, to your heart, to source. And again, you don't need to come up with the answers. You just pose the questions. Ask and ye shall receive. Ask the part of you that can deliver. You are the dreamer. You are the asker. God is the doer. The universe is the doer. One thing that I do that really helps is I ask for clear and undeniable signs to guide me, so that I'm not always looking for signs and wondering, is that a sign? Is that a message? I ask Spirit or the universe, my higher self, to give me really clear signs that are obviously indications that I should explore this or entertain this possibility. I find that very helpful. A third key that I found was to focus on your ultimate goal. And after all, what is really everybody's ultimate goal? That's to be happy. Because happiness includes that your friends and family are happy and that you're serving the world. So all of that is included in spiritual happiness, personal happiness. And then part of that is being taken care of. Just allowing yourself to be taken care of, allowing yourself to be supported, being who you are, and not getting any more specific, any more detailed, not wanting to control that or feel that you need to come up with the form or the vehicle for how that happens. Just keep your requests on the level of being taken care of, being supported, being happy, and you can also feel the qualities that you would like on that journey that are particular to you, adventuresomeness, relaxation, creativity, whatever qualities you enjoy in life, and focus on that and leave the details to the universe. One example from my life is my mother was French and she cooked everything from scratch. So I really fell in love with good, fresh food. And part of a dream I had, which actually I never imagined that I could ever actualize, that I could ever manifest it, was to own a restaurant and have a certain kind of restaurant which people could come and celebrate and relax and have really good food and song and communion. But I couldn't imagine I could ever do that. I was only 20 years old, and in Boston at the time, you needed about a few $100,000 or $500,000 to open a restaurant. So it wasn't a practical dream of mine. It was what we call a fantasy. Yet I held to that fantasy. I would play with it. I'd feel what it would feel like. I would create what my restaurant would like, what the atmosphere would be, what the menu would be. And sure enough, one day, as I was being a very good waiter in a restaurant, the owner asked me if I would like half ownership of the restaurant. And that very day, she gave me half ownership of her 2 restaurants. And so I ended up owning 2 restaurants in Boston. So it was quite surprising when it came, how it came. I just stayed with the fun of feeling what it would feel like to have my dream. And eventually the universe attracted all the elements necessary for that to manifest physically. And just to throw in a side note, at one point when I had fulfilled that dream and I felt very satisfied as a restaurant owner and creator, I sold the restaurant in a very unlikely way for enough money for me to go to acupuncture school, which was another dream, and it got paid for, and I became an acupuncturist for the next 20 years. So it's letting go and allowing the universe to decide the who, what, when, and in what order your dream might unfold. The fourth element, or the fourth key that I've discovered to creating or allowing or attracting the life that you would enjoy, is to act on the signs and synchronicities that come to you, to take action on the messages. In the Lakota language, in the Native American Sioux Lakota language, their word for get the message from spirit, get the message in quotation marks, get the message, is the same as their word for my life has changed. In other words, in that culture, when someone gets the message from spirit, they take action on it. Their life changes, their behavior changes. And so it's very important to not just think about, dwell upon, write about, tell people about the signs and messages you're getting in life, but to take action as quickly as possible, whether the suggestions make sense or not. That's very important, because very often we have to follow 2 or 3 or 4 messages or signs or suggestions from the universe for it to start to make sense, for us to start to see where it's leading, especially in terms of, is it going to make money? Is it a way I can make my living? But to act on the signs and eventually allow them to lead you to your heart's desire, to your heart's expression, because they will if you keep acting. When I started sharing these ideas and playing with these key elements with myself as well as with my friends and with clients, at that time there was no such thing as dog walkers. There was no such thing as personal shoppers. And there was no such category or form as personal chef. This was in the late 60s, early 70s. But living in New York and Boston, I had a lot of clients, and I said, what do you really enjoy doing? And they said, well, I really love to just walk my dog. Other of my clients said, well, I really like to shop, if I could make money shopping. And others said, well, I really love to cook. But I don't want to work in a restaurant. I don't want to be a restaurant cook. I don't like that atmosphere. And what I watched over the years is, as these friends of mine and these clients, in their spare time, in evenings and weekends, as they did what they enjoyed doing, they walked their own dog, and then they would walk a neighbor's dog, and then that led to more dogs. And they would cook for someone's party or birthday or some event, and then they became a chef, a caterer. They would shop for somebody or say, I'll do some shopping for you. And eventually they became a personal shopper. And I watched as the whole culture, all these people that love walking dogs and shopping and cooking, eventually it became a very lucrative and fun form of making a living by walking dogs. I remember in New York City in Central Park, there's people that have the spirit and the heart, the ability to walk 20 dogs. The one person walked 20 different dogs, big and little, all these breeds that supposedly don't get along, and they can walk 20 dogs at once. And they make more money than the people they're walking the dogs for. And they enjoy it. And the same with a personal chef and also personal shoppers. They enjoy what they do, and they have the ability to shop for a lot of different people. So very often, if you focus on what you enjoy doing, and don't put any attention on whether it makes sense or whether it's socially approved of, or whether you are good at it or not, or whether it's a known way of making a living, that occupation, that category might not have been created yet. And you might be part of creating it. I had some other really challenging couple that wanted, their whole life they had been clerks and they'd done things that they had not enjoyed. And they were 40, 50 years old. And I said, well, what do you enjoy? Well, the main thing they enjoyed was walking in the woods. And I said, well, what do you do walking in the woods? Because even I couldn't imagine making money walking in the woods, although actually I'm a Vision Quest guide and I make money taking people for walks in the woods in Sedona. So go figure. But anyway, they were outside of Boston, and I said, well, what do you do when you were walking in the woods? And they said, well, we pick up leaves and feathers and twigs and bark, and we bring them home and we arrange them. And eventually we usually make a bookmark just to preserve them. And then we found out as we preserve these beautiful elements of nature that we bring home with us from our walks, that they make really good bookmarks. And we started giving people these bookmarks as gifts at Christmas. And so I played with them, and we took some pictures, put it on the internet, and these people now make a very good living. They've actually bought a beautiful home on the edge of the forest outside of Boston, and every day they take walks in the forest, and they come home and they make homemade bookmarks out of natural elements that they order all over the world, particularly to art museums, those museum stores of fine arts museums, because those have the clientele that will pay a lot of money for a bookmark. But they make a very good living sharing what they love to do, these natural bookmarks. And one other example is a fellow who was an accountant, a bookkeeper his whole life, and he just got totally burned out. And he had no idea what he wanted to do next in his life. And he went to counselors, he did everything he could, read about things. Nothing was working for as far as ideas. And so he finally got this one counselor that said, you know what, at this point I feel you should just forget expense, forget everything, and just go spend the last of the money you have left, the very little money you have left, and just do what you enjoy, and then let that enjoyment bring something to you. So at that point, he was desperate enough to try such a radical move for such a logical person. And the only thing left that he could imagine that was exciting to do was to go skydiving. So he ended up spending the rest of his savings on going skydiving, which is fairly expensive, at a small airport outside of Boston. And the owners of the airport noticed that he really enjoyed skydiving, and they knew people that ran the companies that do skydiving, and eventually he was asked if he'd like to train people for skydiving, to teach them how to do it. And now he flies all over the world to all the big air shows in Buenos Aires and Paris and all over the world, and trains the people who jump out at high levels, professional skydivers who form, huge flags of 500 skydivers all holding hands. And he trains those people. And he loves the job, he loves the people, because they're all very adventuresome people, plus he gets to travel. So again, the enjoyment, acting on his enjoyment, just doing it, getting out and just doing it, led to attracting all the elements that put it together to make a very fun way of making a living. Also, as I said, it doesn't have to make sense. These messages you get and so on, for you to act on them. The ultimate example I have, and I have hundreds, is a woman who, she kept coming to my workshops, and she would ask if I knew what I could do to open my heart, if I knew what I could do to attract a way to make a living that would be enjoyable for me. And nothing was coming. Well, nothing was coming. She got one message over and over again, workshop after workshop. And the message she kept getting was, work with donkeys. Work with donkeys. And she got very frustrated because she was a city girl. She didn't like donkeys. She didn't even know what a donkey was, really. And finally, after a few years of getting the same message, I said to her, Mary Jean, did you ever consider working with donkeys? And she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, get a job at a ranch here in Arizona, then work with donkeys. So she did. And I helped her find a ranch that had donkeys. And of course, the only real job working with donkeys at that time was to shovel their manure and brush them a little bit, but mainly just take care of their stalls. And then she said one day she was out there in the Arizona heat with the flies and the smell, and she was shoveling shit and swearing at me, she said, for suggesting that she go do that. When along came on the ranch an unusual visitor, and that was a big school bus. And this was a bus full of kids who needed wheelchairs. They couldn't walk. This was full of kids who'd had injuries to their spine. They were either born with spinal injuries or they had some accident during their life. And all these kids were from a very special school, and they couldn't walk. And the headmaster of that school realized that they didn't get out much. They didn't get out to the country. They never visited farms or farm animals or the wilderness. They just didn't get around much. So he arranged to bring a busload of these kids to the ranch to meet and pet farm animals. Well, it was a good idea, except their wheelchairs kept getting stuck on the gravel and the rocks, and it wasn't that easy for them to get around or to reach the animals. Well, my friend Mary Jean, who was working with the donkeys, looked at the kids and looked at the donkeys and realized that donkeys are a perfect height to put a child on a donkey, and an adult can hold the child on the donkey, and the child can ride the donkey, pet the donkey, and through the donkey meet horses and other animals. And so they ended up putting all the kids on donkeys. And of course they had a great time. About 2 or 3 weeks later, the headmaster called again and said, could we bring more kids? Could we bring the kids back out to the ranch? He said, because a very amazing thing is happening. It's absolutely unbelievable. The kids that we brought the first time that were riding the donkeys, they've started to have sensations in their arms and legs that they've never had before. Some of the kids are able to actually move their toes and move their legs. So we felt maybe if they did it again, that these abilities might even come back even more. And long story short, Mary Jane became a pioneer in the whole field of using animals, porpoises, dogs, donkeys, horses, using animals to bring back the neurological functioning of the spine and of the limbs of people who have been impaired in one way or another. And so here, this very simple first message from Spirit, work with donkeys, led her to a very adventuresome, exciting, very fulfilling career, working with children, working with adults, working with people and animals to heal their bodies and their souls. So it's very, very helpful to act on every suggestion that you get and see where it takes you, and give it a few weeks to show where it might be taking you. Give it some space to show its gift. And then finally, the fifth suggestion I would make is to tell everyone your dream. I don't mean, on the airplane or in the supermarket, but if people ask, how are you doing, or what do you do, or what do you enjoy? Take a few moments, just in a sentence or two, to tell them. Get it out there. Tell people what you enjoy in life. Not necessarily, I want to do this for a living. Don't start controlling it or feeling you have to figure it out or packaging it into a category or a presentation. Just simply keep telling the universe, in whatever form is available, what you enjoy. You might even get a website, or on Facebook or Twitter, just posting videos and quotations and stories that touch your heart, that make you feel alive. And this will lead to other people sending you things. This will lead to leads, suggestions, and this is the way that you drop into that river of life, that river of resources and opportunities that will bring you your heart's desire. To keep yourself in the river by taking action and sharing, letting everyone know who you are, what excites you. This is what attracts the next step, the next resource, the next opportunity. So have fun. Have fun with this and enjoy following the signs, following the yellow brick road to your destiny, to your adventure, to the journey of your lifetime. Thank you.